of Family TV.
Wow, thank you.
And I want to thank the viewers of Family TV for tuning in.
Wow, thank you so much. So first and foremost, I want us to have an understanding of what the workers' rights are. What is the current state of workers' rights in regards to the legal framework of Uganda?
Thank you very much. First, to put it right that workers' rights is a struggle.
It's a struggle.
It is not a destination.
Okay.
So what happens is that the mandate of the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development gives us the mandate to really ensure that the rights of workers are respected. This we do by putting in place policies that facilitate the respect of those rights. I can tell you that there is a necessary legal regime. Even recently, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development tabled a number of bills to Parliament with a view to strengthen the process of respecting of workers' rights. For example, we know that there is the OSH bill before Parliament. OSH stands for Occupational Health, Occupational Safety and Health. This is a law which is intended to really amend the existing OSH Act with a view to ensure that when workers are on duty and they have injuries inflicted on them, either because of the poor work environment and things like that, they can be compensated by the employer. Of course, there are also other laws. For example, there is the NSSF Act, which mandates the employers, which obligates the employers to make a contribution towards the NSSF of their employees. What happens is that the employer makes a contribution, whereas the employee also makes a contribution. The result of it is that you ensure that after you've retired, you've reached the retirement age, you have something at least to take you through the rest of your life. So all these are in place. It is one thing to have the policies in place and another thing to have them respected. Because people are not in the habit of respecting this. We know, for example, that the workers have to work in an environment that provides for the safety and health. However, we know that there are a number of workplaces where the workers work in a poor environment. They are not given safety gear. Some of them are working in areas where there are chemicals. They are exposed to chemicals which cause health risks. And we also know that there are some places where workers do not get their due pay, pay for their work. Those exist. And what does the Ministry of Gender do? We ensure, for example, on the issue of safety and health at work, where the ministry has inspectors, which the inspectors move and inspect those places to see what the workers are going through. And the OSH amendment bill that has been tabled before Parliament seeks to expand this mandate to ensure that the capacity within the ministry is available for the ministry to be able to execute this mandate to the fullest. Because the issue is that we have few inspectors, the country is big, and now the workplaces are spread across the country. Back then, when we were going to school, people of our age were told that the industrial town of Uganda is Jinja. That no longer is the case. You have factories everywhere. You have factories in Mbarara, in Tororo, in Jinja. That requires, of course, having the capacity to do the inspections across the country. So we hope that the OSH bill, if enacted into law, should create the capacity within the ministry to carry on that mandate.
Okay. And now you talked of these laws, the regulation is there, but it being respected is the challenge. What happens when you find out that some workers are going through scenarios like you talked of protective gears? What happens if you find out that people working in garbage do not have the protective gears? What happens if you find out that people working in chemicals do not have those gears?
Of course, the Ministry of Gender is one of the few, if not the only ministry, which has the whole cycle from, for example, enforcement of the law. We have inspectors, but we also have a court which falls within the ministry, which is the industrial court. Now, what happens is that the ministry has inspectors can write to those employers and oblige them to respect the law. Also, the ministry can follow the judicial process through the industrial court. We have cases where we have also the arbitration board, which is within the ministry. So where these matters can be tabled. Of course, that's not to say that the people cannot use another recourse to law. They can go through the other ordinary courts also to ensure that those rights are respected. So that's what the ministry does. And but of course we also know that we are a young country. Some of the factories are struggling, or people may not know what they are supposed to do. So we sensitize them about the requirements of the law, about what they need to put in place, such that we grow along as the industry base of the country grows. So that's what we do.
And talking about sensitization, you move around these companies or you convene meetings or sort of?
Yeah, there are several meetings that happen between the workers. In fact, as we talk now, I know that ahead of the International Labour Day, which falls tomorrow, which will be in Fort Portal City, we have a team. There will be meetings which will happen within that region. That region is known for tea growing.
Oh, yes.
And there are, of course, issues, labor-related issues within the tea sector, especially with the workers, their safety, and what the minister in charge of labor and a team, the technical team from the ministry, including officials from OSH, will be meeting the different stakeholders, the employers, the owners of the tea estates, the leaders of the labor unions, to ensure that these issues can be handled. They will be brought to the table. We also have involved the leadership of the labor unions in the country to ensure that the people there get the benefit of hosting the International Labour Day in their region. So that's what we do. We identify cases like that, and we ensure that the sensitization.
And are there laws protecting workers in case a worker is subjected to some unfair treatment, I can say, and they try to report? Is there a law that will protect this person from their employer?
Quite a number of laws. For example, the Employers Act. There's also the Workmen's Compensation Act. Now, for example, under the Workmen's Compensation Act, it looks at if, for example, in due course of your work, you get injuries as a result of your work. You could be working in a mine. You could be working in a steel rolling mill, and in the process of your work, a machine chops off your hand.
Oh, yes, yes.
It is the obligation of the employer to ensure that, one, you are given adequate treatment, two, that you are compensated for the damage that you've gone through, because then you will not be able to work normally.
Yes, sure.
Now, that one is provided for within the law. So, like I said, the laws exist. Where they are weak, it's the mandate of the ministry to ensure that they are made stricter. However, it's also the mandate of the ministry to ensure that once these incidents happen, even those employers who are not willing to follow the law are brought to order such that the workers are really not affected. I think that really led to the theme of this year's International Labour Day. So the International Labour Day for this year rotates really around that. Yes.
Now, very interesting. I want us to now talk about the issues that are affecting workers. What are some of the issues that are affecting the workers, the challenges they are facing?
There are a number of challenges. One of them is, for example, relates to the issues of pay. In the country, we still don't have a minimum wage. And as a result, people are paid anyhow, the way the employer feels like. So, but there are also cases where people are not paid at all. We know that there are many organizations which are relying on this thing of volunteer or what, something like that. So somebody works, somebody could work on a TV like Family TV for 10 years, but when actually is regarded as a volunteer, but exactly doing the work of what staff who is supposed to be paid will be doing. Now, the risks of that is that it means that you are not covered by the law because you are not a worker. Therefore, even if you get injured when you are working, for example, if you go out in the field to get news and you are hit by a canister, by police, tear gas canister, and you're injured. Now, the TV has no obligation to really pay for your health bills. They can do it if they want.
At will.
If they choose not to, they are not, you are not covered by the law.
Okay.
So those things happen. So there are also issues about safety itself. I talked about people who are working, for example, in mines. People who are working in quarry, where they are quarrying stones, they go through a lot. There are also risks of other diseases, respiratory diseases, and yet they are not covered by the law. There are also issues of people who, I said, even when the law requires that they should be subscribing to NSSF, the employers choose not to subscribe them to NSSF. There are also issues of unionization. Under the law, employees have a right to form labor unions. It is through the labor unions that you can advocate for your rights. We have cases of people who are working in some institutions where they are not allowed to form labor unions. And as a result, advocating for their rights becomes a problem. So these are some of the issues which, of course, we still have to grapple with the idea of which I know that within the bills that are tabled before Parliament is one of the issues. Because under the current legal regime that we have, it caters for a workplace. But now, the idea of workplace is shifting. Because one, facilitated by the technologies that we have, today you can host this TV for family TV from your home if you have your gadgets.
Yes.
Now, if the law talks about if you, for example, you are at your workplace working for family TV, and in the process you get injuries somehow, and you are not covered by the law, although you are doing for work for family TV, but you are not at church house, you are at your home. So we are looking at expanding the definition of the workplace.
Okay.
We know that during COVID, many people were able to do work from their homes. We know that there are also outsourcing companies which give people work, so you can be doing audit work from just your PC. You could be sitting in Cafe Javas or anywhere doing the work. But because of the exposure to the TV screen for a whole day, you could get eye problems.
Yes.
But you are not at the workplace. You are at your laptop. So now, because of those changing trends as related to the work, so does the ministry also look at ways of providing coverage within the confines of the law to the workers of this country.
Okay. Now, apart from that amendment, what other solutions are there to majorly some of these challenges you have highlighted?
Like I said, the main role of the ministry really is to make policies.
Okay.
And in the role of the ministry of making policies, we look at issues as related to workers, and we develop them into policies and also into full-fledged laws for Parliament to pass them. This the ministry has done, but we're also aware that they are changing dynamics. For example, we know that the rate at which Uganda creates jobs does not match with the population growth of this country.
Yes.
We know that the number of graduates being churned out by the training institutions is quite more than Uganda can absorb. And this problem is common in most of African countries. That's why the ministry looked ahead and has been signing bilateral agreements with other countries. Because we know that Ugandans from since time immemorial have been moving across the world under what you call Chieyo. People have been going to Chieyo in America and UK for all these years, but they were not covered under the law. They would just find their way of reaching there, and of course once they go there and get money and they help people home, the country benefits. Now the Ministry of Gender has worked on that to put in place policy to facilitate those people who want to go out of the country, without necessarily forgetting the fact that Uganda has to find means of employing her people, because it is the duty of government to ensure that it gets jobs for its people. So in the meantime, in the medium term, people can go out, but as the country now looks at ways of now getting work for its people, I think this can be achieved through government processes of promoting industrial growth, because it's through the industrial growth of the country that we can get jobs for the workers in this country.
And by the way, when you talk of working abroad and all that, we have had challenges in the past years majorly for those who want to go and work in the United Arab side, the Arab side. We have seen so many people complaining they are being tortured, they are being what? How do you address this? And also the people who take them, we have seen some companies who are frauding just taking away money from people, and yet they do not have the actual documentations to facilitate these people's travels to the other side?
The truth is that Uganda, and in this case the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, has made it harder for fraudsters to operate in this country. And the statistics show that most of those have actually shifted base from Uganda to neighboring countries, such as Kenya. Now the problem that we have to deal with is the porous borders, because we have many Ugandans who find a way of going out through Kenya. Through Kenya,
yes, that's true.
And of course they still remain Ugandans. So if a Ugandan who went through Kenya gets problems in United Arab Emirates or Dubai, or Saudi Arabia or countries like that, it is still the responsibility of Uganda to ensure the safety of that Ugandan. What we are doing within the ministry is to educate the citizens of this country the safe ways of going out of this country for work. The other one is to have bilateral agreements with countries. Recently we had a bilateral agreement with Oman. We are in discussions with Oman, but we had the recent agreement with Qatar. And then, of course, we already have one with Saudi Arabia, and we have one with United Arab Emirates. We are also in discussions with other countries. Of course, the Middle East has been the destination where most Ugandans go. But the Ministry of Gender is looking ahead by also exploring opportunities of such partnerships with the countries like Canada and others, where Ugandans can get jobs. So one of the requirements within the law is that for countries that take people out of this country, they have to make a mandatory deposit of monies to Uganda, such that such money can be brought to bear if somebody gets challenges when they're out of this country. So there are policies that safeguard. This is not to say that we are dealing with angels. There are also owners of companies who, despite the fact that there are policies in place, may want to flout those policies. Those the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development deals with an iron hand. They can be deregistered, they can be stopped operating from this country. That's why I'm telling you that many companies which do not meet the standards of this country are shifting base, have shifted base to go to neighboring Kenya and other countries in the neighborhood, where now Ugandans may be lured to use the porous borders to still go out of the country, but avoiding the exit of Entebbe.
Okay, that's interesting. And are there partnerships you are having majorly with maybe UAE to have these people protected from wherever they go and work from? Is there an aspect of protection there?
Of course there is a protection. It's one of the key reasons why Uganda seeks to sign bilateral agreements with those countries. One of the key clauses in those bilateral agreements is to ensure protection and safety of the Ugandans when they work in those countries. Also, Uganda has developed a software which can help monitor Ugandans. What you need is just have a smartphone and you install an app on the smartphone. In case you have a problem, you just, by click of a button, it can alert all the stakeholders, both in the host country. In this case, if Uganda has if you are in Saudi Arabia, when you click on the button on your smartphone, you could be in some rich Haji's house. Maybe you are a maid working inside, and you get problems, maybe you being raped or something. You would click on your phone, and it would alert the authorities in Saudi Arabia. It would also alert our focal point person, the labor officers at our embassy, and it would also alert the officials in Kampala at the Ministry of Gender. So that's how far we have gone.
Okay.
The issue is to ensure that whoever goes out of the country goes out through the proper channels. Because to have access to this, it means that you should have gone through the proper channels for you to have access to these facilities.
Okay, and maybe let me bring you back here in our country, majorly about the kind of working environment. Because I ideally understand this is the basis of what we're discussing here. The working environment created by the employer. How do you determine, how do you protect some workplaces that are not favoring the employees? You find a workplace that is only favoring the employer. Like everything that is done in there has to be in favor. If what the employer wants is what is supposed to happen, and you find these people are not enjoying the workplace, but also even the situations in there are not favoring, is it important for them to report? And if they report, what is their fate? Because this is where they are earning something from.
Of course, we are aware that most workers would fear to really come out.
Yes.
And as a result, we have put in place a complaints handling mechanism. You can alert us without really having to come out and identify yourself. In this case, we have inspectors.
Okay.
The Ministry of Gender has inspectors under the OSH department who visit workplaces to look at what workers are going through. They also have interaction with the workers, and because we know, of course, that workers may want to protect their jobs and they may not really come out in the open to say that. Now, but also apart from that, we are meeting employers with a view to allow them, according to the law, to allow workers to form unions. Because then through unions, you are not speaking as an individual. Okay. You're speaking as the voice of workers in that workplace. So, but like I said, that fighting for labor rights is not a destination. It is a struggle, because even in other countries which we say are developed in quotes, like in the United States or UK, workers still have to struggle.
Okay.
That's why they have unions, they have an interest on what is going on, such that their work can be protected and they can get proceeds out of their work.
And what happens when the employer doesn't want unions?
Of course, they can be brought to order.
Oh.
They can be brought order. I told you that in the Ministry of Gender, there are quite a layer of actions to take. One, I told you of the inspectors, but I told you that actually the other courts, the Labor Arbitration Board, which falls within the ministry, also the connections with the industrial court, there are a number of layers which can be followed. We have not got the cases of really defiance, people defying lawful orders from the Ministry of Gender. Okay. We have no reason to believe that anybody will defy the orders. So we engage on a daily basis.
That's very important. Well, we are discussing protecting and promoting workers' rights here in Uganda, and here with me is Mr. Kyalimpa, who is the PRO of the Ministry of Gender, and we are continuing with this discussion, but first we are going in for a very short break and return.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
Welcome back, and thank you for keeping it to Start of Uganda Family TV. We are discussing matters to do with workers' rights, and the topic today is protecting and promoting workers' rights, specifically here in Uganda. And it is not me in my capacity to talk about that. We have the PRO from the Ministry of Gender, so it is very important that you stick with us to flow. And in case you missed the past segment, please go to YouTube, get that link, and of course follow, because it may actually be you who is being affected, and it could help you somehow or somewhere. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Now we are talking about workers, but there is one section of workers we are not talked about, Mr. Kyalimpa, and this is the informal economy. So how can these workers in the informal sector also be protected, or how are they being protected if it is there?
Thank you very much. The Ministry of Gender really takes care of the interests of all workers across the board, whether those employed formally but also those informally employed. And in the design of policies, we ensure that not a single person is left behind.
Okay.
I'll give you the example. For example, the government really has been addressing the issue of the work environment and also workspaces. You've seen many projects going on for markets.
Oh, yes.
In most of the major towns and cities. And in the design of those policies, the Ministry of Gender ensures that these projects are engendered. For example, the Ministry of Gender advocated for the creation of spaces for children and breastfeeding mothers. In the design of all those spaces, workspaces in the markets, that has been provided for. We know that the majority of the people who work in the markets are actually women.
Yes.
And those women have gender roles to play. They cannot work in comfort if they are worried of the safety of their children they have left home. And as a result, the design of all those markets provides for spaces where children can be kept, where breastfeeding mothers can go and breastfeed their children and come back to work. Also, the Ministry of Gender, through different interventions, are now looking at different aspects of people. For example, the women are provided for under the Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, where women can be provided with capital to start to put into their businesses with a view that those businesses can grow into enterprises that can even employ others. Those UWEP now provides the seed, the nursery for people who can graduate into other ministry programs, such as the one which was launched recently called GROW and supported by the World Bank.
Okay.
Now, the GROW project carries on enterprises that have started. They are now working. They need money to be able to run, to expand their enterprises. Now there, they can access big monies. They can get up to 50 million, 200 million to invest in their enterprise. Because we know that capital is one of the hurdles for many beginners, especially women. But also the other one is that we know that the youth may be facing similar problems like their mothers, the women. Because, for example, to get money from a traditional institution of a bank, you need to have collateral, which would be in form of land or assets that you have acquired. The young people don't have the collateral. And because we are aware of that, we provide through the Youth Livelihood Program money that can facilitate the youth to start their enterprises. The idea is once all that is in place, we can even think of now creating a work environment that is conducive for people to work. We inspect places, so there's a lot going on in that sector. Recently now, under the ministry, there is also, we have put at center stage the people of older persons, I mean the issue of older persons.
Okay.
Because we know that there are old people who still have the energies to actually work. We know that many people have been actually brought up by their grandparents. And these ones also have to be empowered in a way. But for those who can't really work, are old, they may also have access through the SAGE, which is money which is provided for under the Ministry of Gender still. So there's a lot that is going on in that sector, and we think that we have handled the issues of workers from the beginning to end. The issue is now how to create more capacities such that we can expand those interventions for the benefit of all.
Now that is very interesting. Now I want us to understand the importance of having people formally employed, because I believe that is how you can best manage to intervene and protect them whenever they have maybe challenges with their working environment.
Of course, it is important for government to have people formally employed. I don't know what you mean by formally, but formally means also formalizing what people are doing.
Okay.
For example, we know that many Ugandans work within the informal sector. So they have their enterprises. Their enterprises are not registered, and we need those registered. I think we need to understand, and that's what we tell women or young people, that really working doesn't mean you coming to family TV and asking for a job and being recruited to do the job. Working also means you creating your own job, investing in it, and that job, manages you to run around your life. I know that there are many Indians in Uganda.
In Uganda, yes.
How many of them do you see looking for jobs? But they are here, but they know that they have to create their own job.
Yes.
They have their shops. That is what we are talking about. That formalization from the perspective of government really may not mean creating jobs and people go and apply and get those jobs.
Okay.
May also be in the interventions we are putting in place, where we give the young people capital such that they can make their own businesses, and those all enterprises, youth can get money and start shoemaking. They can become some of the big brands like butter, or the equivalent of butter, by starting small. So that is what we are looking at. And once those are started, one of the challenges is how do you help them move from being startups to really small and medium enterprises, because it is the small and medium enterprises where government can get the benefit of those enterprises being able to employ other people and also collect taxes from them. This, through our interventions, we are helping, we are partnering with different institutions such as the URSB. Understand URSB is being merged with with NIRA, according to a recent act which was passed in Parliament. So we are partnerships such that now those companies can be registered.
Okay.
2, we are working with the other partners such as the one which is deals with standards to ensure that UNBS, Uganda National Bureau of Standards, looks at the workspaces where these people are working to look at whether those products being made meet the standards with a view of having them access the stalls in the supermarkets. So this is where we are moving.
Okay.
And I think we are moving in the right direction.
Now, can we talk about the gender perspective in regards to workers protecting? Are there specific laws that protect a woman at a workplace? Are there specific laws that protect a man at a workplace?
Yes, I mean, like I said, the role of the Ministry of Gender is also to ensure that laws, whether originating from the Ministry of Gender or other ministries, even private members' bills, take care of the interests of both genders.
Okay.
And for example, under the Employment Act, there are issues of maternity leave. For example, we know that applies specifically to women.
Yes.
Although now, even men, according to that law, are entitled to paternity leave.
Okay.
It means that if your wife, who may not be working in the same place where you work, your wife could be working elsewhere, and they produce, they give birth, you can apply for leave to go and be with your wife in that period.
Yes, yes.
To give the support as a father. But the women really are entitled to leave, maternity leave, so they can go look after the children for a period of 3 months. That's provided for under the law. Now, for the employer, it is incumbent upon you to give that leave. So it is not like a request.
Oh.
It is mandated
Mandatory.
within the law that a person is entitled to leave.
Okay.
Of course, there are also other issues which are criminal in nature. These are issues of, for example, sexual harassment. I hear also men can be harassed, but it is very common
for women.
For the women to be harassed. After all, the patriarchy system that we have in many African countries means that you have many men in positions of power at the workplace than the women.
Okay.
And because the men are in positions of power, they may abuse those positions and harass the women. Now, these ones are covered within the law, and the female gender are protected within the law. So, and like I said, there is you can report in case something like that happens. It is also the role of the Ministry of Gender now to talk to all employers, including ministries, to ensure that there are policies within the workplaces that stop these fights from being endemic in the places of work.
Okay. And how about the ladies majorly at workplaces? Because I know of a certain lady, she is a friend and works in a certain organization. She gave birth, and when the leave was done, how long are they supposed? Because she currently, by that time, she didn't have a maid, so she wanted to be with her child at her workplace, but their bosses could not allow. Is that agreed on at will basis, or there is also a provision that a breastfeeding mother should be given this kind of time?
I think within the policies that are in place, that is being encouraged. But like like I said, most of our companies don't have the capacity. Until recently, even in Parliament, they didn't have such a place. It has been created now in Parliament that you have a place for breastfeeding mothers. So we are advocating for this to be included in all workplaces.
Okay.
But of course, the focus of the Ministry of Gender has been to ensure that we start with the public workplaces first. Ministries should provide for this. Universities, hospitals, places like that, such that now I told you that even in the markets now, all the markets that have been built provide for that, such that breastfeeding mothers can have a place to go and breastfeed their children. So we hope that this can be adopted across the board.
Okay.
Yes.
And how about these ones who totally don't want children at the workplace?
Of course, like I said, that now some of the things may not be covered under the law. Because the fact of the matter is that you find that a child at the workplace may not be covered under the law in case of a problem.
Okay.
And as a result, it would provide legal challenges. If, for example, a child is injured, is not a worker in the place. However, what we are doing is that we are doing advocacy and sensitizing the employers to ensure that they create an environment that is conducive for such mothers. And the environment that is conducive for a mother is where they are not worried that I left my child with a maid who may be torturing the child at home, so that they work with a peace of mind. I'm sure that this, once it is discovered, that it even it even leads to increased productivity of the workplace. This should be adopted by many employers.
Okay.
So the role of the ministry is not just to enforce the policies, but also to sensitize the employers such that they come up with the best practices. Yeah.
Well, we could go over and over, but it is very important that you really know your rights as a worker wherever you are, such that you can manage to go through the challenge you can encounter at the workplace. So our time is fast spent, and I would request you give us the last remarks in regards to this particular discussion.
Dear viewers, and indeed the host and management of Family TV, I'm really humbled to be here in the studios of Family TV. I know for viewers there, you are workers in your own way. Everybody in Uganda is a worker. Tomorrow will be International Labour Day. The celebrations for the country will be taking place in Fort Potro, Mukabura Grounds, St. Leo's. And you are invited to come and join the workers. Those who can't come, also you can follow on TV. The event will be covered on TV. But the take home is that the responsibility of the workers' rights should be the responsibility of everybody. The employers and the employees who have to really come out to say if their rights are being violated. Thank you very much for hosting us.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Kyalimpa Joshua, who is the PRO from the Gender Ministry for giving us this insightful discussion. We truly appreciate that you managed to accept to come and we have this discussed. Well, it is Issues at Hand, happening every Monday to Friday at exactly 9 p.m. We always discuss such important matters. So if you are a worker there, I guess you have to clap for us, because we have brought so much into light for you. Maybe somehow, somewhere, you may not have known what you're supposed to do as a worker, or even the employers themselves. You might have been twisting your employees so much, but you don't know the rights that these people do have. So it is important that we always engage ourselves in these kind of discussions, such that we know what we uphold in this country, of course, for the betterment of all of us. Now, we're always powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott in Entebbe. For any event you want, please make sure you go and check on them, and of course have your event sorted, or for any other services